Hello, welcome to the Cloud Blue podcast. It's 10 to 11 on Monday night. This is our second episode of the day. However, the first of which we recorded this morning and it's out tomorrow. And it's a big fat Q&A where we don't mention Monchi leaving because it wasn't news then. That episode will still go out. So bear in mind when you do listen to that, it was recorded earlier today. The plan was always to post it Tuesday morning. This is an emergency live broadcast. We often do these when big news breaks, John. And the biggest news tonight is Monchi departs Villa, exits Villa, is set to leave, whatever phrasing you want to use. I mean, we don't have any official confirmation from a club statement or anything yet, whether that's a resigning matter or he's been sacked or whatever. Do you know anything? I'm absolutely speculating on the spot here.
No. Well,
just is set to leave, right? Take that however you want.
Yeah. For now, yeah, that'll become clearer. Sorry, yeah, pretty manic the last hour. Monchi leaving Villa. Where do you want to kind of start with it, Dan? I presume there's different episodes that you could probably do out of this, but I guess you just put it this way. Like, I'm not shocked by it. I'm shocked that it's shocked. It's obviously caught us off guard that it's this evening. It's not really ideal, but I'm not surprised by it. Put it that way.
No, but the timing is strange, though. No, if this
it's after the summer window, obviously a month after. I don't know whether it's the case of Monchi's seeing how poor we've been this season and thinks that I've got a bigger job on my hands than what I thought I might have during the summer window. We obviously know kind of the restrictions that Villa were under and the fact that we couldn't spend much money. It's not very fun to be a sporting director, I presume.
Maybe,
doing that, being away from what you know as well, which for him in his success is being in Spain, particularly with Seville, especially the first stint he had there. Roma didn't go particularly well, and now we talk about Villa. Has it gone particularly well? I don't think you would say it's been a major success, put it that way. I think a lot of people will be branding it as something don't know about failure, because I think the rules are so prohibitive to Villa that I think this would be a massive struggle for almost any sporting director, footballer operations, and as well with Unai having so much power, the players who come through the door are the players that Emery wants, and we've seen Monchi sign some players, Nedeljkovic, Ozcan, other younger players who are Monchi signings, and they've been shipped out almost straight away. So I think for a number of different reasons, it hasn't quite worked out. And now it's time for someone with a fresh outlook to come in and do the job. But what I would say is that I don't think this isn't a normal job. I don't think working at Villa in the climate that we're in, but then also with Unai too, a manager who, you need to serve what he wants. And if that doesn't happen, then that's not going to be a relationship that works.
Yeah,
as far as we can see.
There's so many layers to this that we are not going to cover every blade of grass here in a 30, 40-minute live stream on a Monday evening. I actually wanted to do an episode about Villa's recruitment since Emery or since Monchi, or over the last couple of windows, maybe. Hit versus miss, that kind of thing, and maybe we still will do that in the coming days and weeks, assessing Monchi's legacy maybe in more detail. But as of right now, there's so many kind of, my brain is firing off in so many different directions of what does it mean about this, and what about this, and what about this, and I don't know whether we can go through it all now. When this news first broke, what was it, an hour ago or whatever, we were messaging, should we do a podcast? Like, what does that mean for the podcast that we recorded this morning, where we don't, the episode that we're doing tomorrow is like, where next for Villa? And a big part of that is recruitment, and it is what happens there. We don't talk about Monchi because, as I said, didn't know it was going to happen. So again, when you listen to that tomorrow, please bear that in mind that it was recorded this morning. But the future of the recruitment and what that means for working with Emery, who comes in, how does that relationship work? What does that mean for Unai Emery's future? Do we know whether Monchi's gone by his choice or is it the club's choice? Is Emery happy with that? Is he upset with it? There's so many different thoughts to get into that. What was your immediate reaction when you heard that news? What was the first thing that you thought, oh, this means this?
No, again, I think, in the kind of heat of the moment, you can kind of come up with anything. But right now, I'm again, it doesn't. It's all a bit of a rush, right? But it's not. This isn't a big shock because, frankly, Monchi's been here for over 2 years now. This is a very difficult job for a sporting director for a start. But equally, I don't think that he has helped himself in terms of the money that we have spent. We've spent 85 or so million pounds on Onana and Maatsen, and as individual players and quantities, their market value, I do think is probably about fair. I think Maatsen was probably inflated, but they paid 90 million pounds, didn't they, Chelsea, for Amari Kellyman? So you can look at that and make your own conclusions. So the money that Villa have spent, they haven't spent it particularly well because the players who we have spent it on, some of them aren't in the first 11. But then I look at Unai Emery and I say that, okay, well, who did you want to play in that midfield role? So it was Conor Gallagher. That deal fell through because Chelsea didn't sign Duran in the end. And then we go to Onana. There's completely different players for a start. They can do similar functions, right? But really different. That's just one example. And I look at, again, the squad that we have. And we always talk about there's so many Dean Smith signings there. Part of me thinks that, okay, well, all Monchi can do is get the deals that Unai Emery wants done. Okay, so Onana, Emery was happy to sign Onana. Rodgers, that was obviously an Emery signing. Monchi does the deal, not a hard deal to do, don't get me wrong, but for a cheap fee and one that will go down as one of Monchi's best kind of signings. Potentially, Rodgers picks up his level. That's something for tomorrow. We could go through each and every player. Pau Torres and Emery signing.
I think we probably will at another time, to be honest, mate.
Yeah, Moussa Diaby, for example, a player that comes with big pedigree, a good player. But Emery talks afterwards about how actually he wasn't quite the right fit. So there's been a lot of misses for me. There's been a few hits. Yuri Tielemans on a free transfer, but again, who's selling that? It's Unai Emery. If Emery isn't here, Tielemans maybe doesn't come to Villa because you're selling the project of working with him and playing in Europe. I've been in Europe for 15 years straight. Play under me and you'll get these experiences, and that's what he's had so far. So I think it's been a very difficult job for Monchi on one hand because of the rules and everything that's going on. He can't spend money essentially as freely as he'd like. He can't make the mistakes that the clubs can. But then secondly, I think it's difficult because you're working with a manager who, again, he has the power here. Monchi has signed some players to put in this Emery team or squad. And Emery's essentially said that, no, I don't rate those players. And out they go. So Nedeljkovic, Ozcan, to name a couple. So, yeah, been a difficult job for him. But I also think it will be a difficult job for whoever else walks in, to be perfectly honest, because this is a man who has obviously worked with Emery before. The next person who comes in, will they have worked with Emery before? Is that a good thing? Do we need that? I don't know. Calvo obviously worked with Monchi, but as we said at the time, that's not something that Villa thought of as get him in because he's worked with the football department before. That really wasn't. That was just a kind of an added bonus. So yeah, just to sum that up quickly, not shocked that he's gone, to be perfectly honest. But what does that mean now for Villa's footballing structure? We'll have to wait and see whether it's going to be big change or if it's just going to be, I don't know, the passing of regard to the next one.
Yeah, it's oh my God, I've got so many thoughts racing through my head. This is so bad. I should be way more organised than this. But it kind of, we say that Emery's got this power, and he absolutely has. When there's been criticism of Monchi this summer, and there's been there's been more vocal people saying, get rid of him. We've had terrible window after terrible window. He doesn't know what he's doing. Blah blah. Those people have got their wish now. He's gone. Hope we'll all be better now, right? That's how these things work. But Emery's got the final say on everything. So if we've signed a player that you don't like or you don't rate, Emery said yes to that. So is Emery not culpable for those bad signings? Is it all on Monchi? Is every bad signing Monchi and every good one Emery? No, it's a collective, right? Emery has final say. So does this mean anything really? If whoever comes in afterwards, if Emery still holds all the keys, if he wants a certain player and the sporting director says, well, this one's better, like statistically, this guy's better. I've seen him play for the Belgium second division or whatever. Yeah. And Emery says, yeah, but I want this guy because I've worked with him before. If that trumps everything, does it matter who the sporting director is? Do you know what I mean? Like I know I'm not really being reductive.
That's kind of the point I'm trying to make. Of this would have been a difficult job for anybody to have, and will be when they come in, because again, like Damian said to us before, that they're making a lot of food, but is Unai Emery going to like the food? It's two very different acts to do. So Monchi previously has had the power as sporting director to buy players and say, okay, you will use these players, and this is how we're going to, this is how we play. This is our the club's philosophy, whatever. It's different at Villa. Emery holds all the power, and the players who Monchi signs, as you say, they're done. No one's arriving without Unai Emery say so. And when they have arrived, some of them, again, have been told to kind of find a new club, essentially, because Emery doesn't think that they're up to the level. If you go through just quickly some of the business Villa obviously conducted, so you look at Asensio, Rashford, Sancho. These aren't players picked out from different parts of the continent that Monchi would have signed for Sevilla or Roma even, I don't think. And again, with varying success that he's had there, Monchi, you would say that a large proportion of the business he's concluded has been on Emery's wish. And again, you would you kind of credit that and say, well, okay, we've done these deals, so you need someone to conclude them, right? I know that's kind of very basic, but at the same kind of element, you look at some of the players who have come in and they either haven't been ready in Unai's eyes, and some of them who have come in for big money just haven't quite fitted in. And those are concerning elements. But listen, Monchi must be one of the most highest paid sporting directors. I'd have thought to get him out of his home club to come to Villa over 2 years ago now. And now he leaves. So, it's... in one way, it's kind of big shoes to fill for someone. It's a big role. But as you say, they're done. Could Villa operate without Monchi and have a varying kind of similar success rate in the market? Possibly so. You obviously need, that conduit, someone to complete the deals. But I don't think we were scouting. We know for a fact, because here's a list of players that we've signed. Who have we got there? Garcia, that's kind of come out of lower league, shall I say, for a reasonable price, and looks like he could make the step up.
Yeah, maybe.
Rodgers, but that's an Emery signing. Nedeljkovic was that kind of Garcia, similar kind of option, right? And hasn't worked out. But apart from that, you're talking big money players to win here and now. And Villa at this stage are sitting in the bottom 3 after 5 games, and it's not been a good start whatsoever. So it's I wonder if that's probably played a part in Monchi's mind as well. I know he's got a lot of work that he's doing back in Spain. His hometown club, I think he's saved them. Is that right? So he worked on that in the summer. I don't know if that's going to be a concentration for us now.
That was a distraction from Villa's transfer business, apparently.
Well, I don't know that.
No, that's what people say. He's more focused on his own personal projects, which, whatever. He's gone now, don't care. A couple of comments. Dan says, it's been reported on another podcast, Unai is happy with it. Don't know where that's come from. I've not seen anything apart from the official lines that Monchi's leaving the club. Nothing, no quotes from Emery, no.
But this is...
he may be happy with it. I mean, this is the thing. We don't know. Is Emery consulted on this decision? Have the owners just thought there needs to be a fall guy? We've not started well. We need to blame it on somebody. Recruitment's not been great. We can't get rid of Emery. We can't get rid of the players. We need to be shown to do something.
Equally, if you can kind of look at it both ways. If you're Monchi, you're signing some players, thinking these guys, will be ready for the Premier League in so many years. Monchi and Emery discards them. Okay, well, it's not really joined up thinking there for me. It's not ideal. Even a case of Daniel Marlon. We signed Daniel Marlon, and he can barely really get a kick of the ball, and his career is only going one way at this stage. I can't see how this is such a productive relationship that come the winter window and the summer window next year that we're really kind of tapping into. Okay, so what success stories have we had? In terms of recruitment, like real success stories. Well, we got Morgan Rogers. Hopefully, that is still going to be a success story in 6 months' time. But that's Unai Emery's thinking. That one for sure. Yuri Tielemans on a free transfer, to get him through the door. Again, as I say, Unai Emery has to be at the club for that to happen. Pau Torres, what a success story. I think that's questionable now. Certainly played his part in Villa's initial success under Emery.
Yeah.
Again, Unai Emery.
Yeah.
Where else do you go? Alex Moreno, but that was a player signed before Monchi.
Was he? That's interesting.
He was, wasn't he?
I don't know.
January
Can't remember that.
January 2023. Yeah,
Monchi was the summer, wasn't he? When there
June
was
2023.
Alemany as well.
Yeah. And you can go. Where else can we go? Quickly, I'll have a quick
Just
scan.
a comment there actually from CC says this isn't a fall guy situation. I think a detailed review was done and Monchi was found wanting. Do that in the summer then. Do you do that after the window?
I think this is probably a mutual thing. To be perfectly honest with you,
You think?
I don't think he'll be kicking and screaming, leaving Villa again. His hands are tied. I think in two ways, Monchi. Firstly, because of the rules. Secondly, because he has signed some players and they're not really getting looking, or they haven't. Some of them, and then again, it's not as if Unai's persisting with Marlon to kind of get him in form, and we're going to continue to play him on the right wing. So we see a potential in this player that just hasn't happened so far.
Mm.
And if you're Monchi, you're thinking, well, I've signed this player for this manager, and he's either not playing them or he's not getting out of him what I think he can bring to a team. This doesn't reflect well on me. So, put it this way, we'll be on to some sort of gold mine of players next summer under Monchi.
No, true. Yeah, you're right. Is this a
I
loss to Villa? Not really.
And is it a loss to Monchi apart from his bank balance? Probably not.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. He can't do at Villa what he would probably want to do at Sevilla, even though financially they don't have huge pools of money anyway. But you see what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
There's a few success stories here, and the ones that are success stories, mainly because of Unai Emery's influence, I'd have thought.
A couple of comments. T Green says, I doubt it's mutual. Do you reckon this happens if we're 7th right now? Probably not, because that means the signings are better than they are. So there's no need to change anything. And just quickly, just to kind of clear something up, Jack says, does Calvo get more involved now? That's totally different, isn't it? That's business. Well, this is football. He's kind of head of the business side. Monchi was head of the football side. There's no cross pass there.
As Villa are currently set up, that is
department
in a business department. What they did want to bring in was someone on the business side who has worked in football, but Calvo is no scout or
he's a money man, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And that link has to be there because it's been too disjointed for me. And that, goodness me, like Villa have to increase their revenues. They need to make money. So it's a massively important role that Calvo has. But no, he's not going to be telling Unai Emery who to sign because, face it, Monchi probably didn't have a lot of that power either. Emery will want to use the players that he thinks can win for Aston Villa tomorrow. Well, the place, you know what I mean? Win now. That's it. Whereas the rules kind of force us to spend lower amounts of money on lower wage players. I'm sure Monchi probably had a very long list of those ones, and we brought some in. But for whatever reason, they don't have the time under Emery to grow into the players that Monchi thinks that they can become. That's just one part of it. So, yeah.
Couple more comments then. Mark says, just sat down to this. Wanted to say a big thank you to Dan for his reply this morning. Grateful for the live podcast. Me and Mark had a bit of a mix up. I'd said on the post match that if you want me to be Emery out and ranting and raving, that's not me. Go and find another podcast that might say that. And Mark was like, well, I've been watching for a long time. How rude to kind of say go somewhere else. I mean, like if I can't validate that opinion. It's not that we can absolutely have different opinions on everything. Some people will think Monchi was good for us. Some people think he was bad for us. Whatever. No one is wrong, basically. You're only wrong if you think we're going to get relegated, which is definitely still not happening. AV Hole says, hello, lads. Do we think this will impact Emery's happiness at the club at all or not really? I suppose the talking point here, and I think the national media narrative, you switch on TalkSport tomorrow, they're going to be going, wow, Monchi and Emery, they were best mates. Monchi's gone. Villa look down in the dumps. They've not scored a goal yet. Could Unai Emery go to Manchester United, John?
No, it's yeah.
That's my TalkSport impression.
Emery has so much power at the club now that if he wants someone to stay, pretty sure that would happen. So that's why I'm saying it's a mutual thing. If Emery says, no, this guy can't leave, there has to be something in place there for him not to leave. If he's open to it, of it, being okay, if Monchi wants to start something new, go back home or whatever it may be, I'm not going to kind of keep him here because, again, it's not as if our success has been built on Monchi. And equally, look at us now, where the squad is. Again, we were restricted, right? But I think everyone has a part to play in this. We can talk about the rules a lot, but we have a better squad than Brentford. We have a better squad than Everton. We have a better squad than we had a better squad than Newcastle on the opening day. There's a lot going wrong with Villa, where Villa are at the moment. You'd like to think that this big development isn't something that will derail us further. Will it work the other way?
On the pitch straight away? No.
No. It's not going to make a difference for Bologna. But obviously, we can't get around it. This was kind of a three-pronged football department in basic terms. Obviously, there's a lot that goes behind the scenes.
Yeah.
But Damian, Emery, and Monchi, they come as a three sort of thing. There's one person who has particular power in that, in Emery, and we all know that. And now right now it's two. Whether that becomes three again in the near future, we'll have to wait and see. But it is a big change. No way of looking past it. And again, if this is a mutual thing of Monchi's happy to go, and again, Emery's not going to kind of kick up a massive fuss if he is to leave, which he is, then yeah, we move on, sort of thing. But at the same time, this is a relationship where, again, that's supposed to be strong relationship, right? So that's where I'm a bit puzzled, a little bit of, okay, well, yes, there hasn't been kind of success stories every summer window and every winter window, and we're one of the best transfer dealers around, and look at the players that we've signed for a pittance. It's not always going to be like that. It's very hard to do so, especially at a club like Villa, who have such expectation, and Emery expectation as well of what he sees in his team now. It's always going to be a difficult job, but
it's just things change, right? Like they're friends. This triangle of power. You got Unai, Damian, and Monchi. I'll talk about Damian in a sec. I want to ask you about him separately. They've been working together a couple of years. If it is, and a pure speculation here on my part, as always, that's my job here, really. If Monchi's sat there going, "I'm giving you players, Unai, you're not playing them." Like I've signed you Marlon, for example. He's barely getting a kick. What's going on here? Like, yeah, they're mates, but mates fall out. Maybe I can't do my job properly. The scrutiny's on me here. Like I'm signing these players for you, and you're not playing them. That makes me look bad. I can't work with you anymore. But need to get out of here. That's a scenario, right? That this kind of close friendship triangle of power. Maybe it wasn't a triangle. Maybe it was more like a square or a line between Damian and Unai, and Monchi was a kind of side part to it.
Yeah.
Speculation.
Yeah, but it's a big development. There's no other way of looking at it. It's it absolutely is. They're in dialogue every day. It's a big change, for good or for bad. It's a big change. The only thing that I will say for Monchi that we haven't quite touched on is that obviously the rules are one thing, but then having to comply with them is another. And I do think we have sold well. I know that we haven't got money for Alex Moreno, we haven't got money for Dendoncker. You tell me who wants to pay for those players for a start. But then secondly, we have banked, I think, a reasonable fee for Jacob Ramsey, 39 million to rise to more if he plays particularly well. Duran, I think at the time we probably could have got more. They know more than me, though. And seeing where his career is going now, Duran, I think everybody would have snapped Al Nasser's hand off for, 65 in the end, rising. Who else did we sell? Douglas Luiz was a very difficult one to do, and one that took us nearly to a double digits points deduction. Again, first you got to sell the player, but then find a buyer, someone who's willing to help you out in that situation. We just about did that.
Yeah.
Renachea is a player that could come back to haunt us in terms of where his career could be going. But then at the same time, again, Villa not really in a situation where they could just stockpile players. Has to be willing buyers for the price that teams are willing to pay for him. So yeah, you can go kind of over every single player, and I'm sure we'll probably do that at some stage if there is appetite for it. Maybe there isn't, and it's more of a what's next. Where do Villa go for this? And that's probably where it is. Because again, I don't think this is a major shock. This isn't Emery leaving. It's Monchi, and again, he's a sporting director. It's it's a situation where, again, we've brought him over from Spain. I don't know, he's probably happy to just go back there and do something different again. As we said earlier, he's got his club over there now that he's saved. And I think for him, he's probably thinking, well, what's my significant contribution to Aston Villa in the next 2 years? There might not be one because of different reasons, financial rules. And then secondly, again, Emery has the power here. His job really under Emery, it's kind of boiled down a little bit to more can you sort these deals out for the players that I want to sign, rather than it be Monchi? Yeah, he'll recommend players. Recommends various players per position when Villa look to strengthen in certain areas. But then ultimately, those decisions are going to lie with Emery, because that's the way the club's set up. It's to win now, and it's to win under this.
That won't change. Whoever comes in, they won't be. I don't see us changing to a model where we bring in a sporting director they have the power, and Emery likes it or lumps it. These are the players you get in, deal with it. That won't happen. I don't think. Emery will still have the power to sign who he wants, rightly or wrongly.
Yeah, and again, we've built the club around him, and this is I think for me, this is maybe we can kind of go down a deeper point here, but Villa have to structure themselves for the day that Emery does leave, and I'm not saying that's going to be in. I'm not going to give a time frame on it. Whenever that is, it could be 6 years down the line. But Villa have to have a plan for when that day comes, because we've built the club around him so much that it could easily, fall like a pack of cards if things don't go right on the pitch. And I'm not saying that's happened, but so far this season it's been so bad that would be the assumption of, well, if that does happen next summer, for example, where are we going to be left with? So whoever replaces Monchi for me needs to have Aston Villa as the best interest. And I don't mean that in terms of, because, Emery's days are numbered or whatever. No, absolutely not. You support that manager because he's the best manager that I've seen in my lifetime and possibly in our history. Possibly. He needs to win a trophy, of course. I'm saying possibly because that would be the opinion of some fans. And because of that, we're not talking, about anything related to Unai specifically, but the point I'm trying to make more is that, well, whoever replaces Monchi, what should we base that on? Unai, who do you want to work with? Or do we base it on what's the best course of action for Aston Villa in the next 5 years?
I think it should be that.
With Unai hopefully there, but also with the thought of, well, maybe he might not be here in 5 years. That's how you have to think. I think we have to now, not saying plan for Unai going. That's not what I'm saying. Just be more vigilant that Emery might. How long has he been here for? 3.5.
It'll be 3 years this November, I think.
3 years. 3 years. Will Emery be here for another 3 years? Possibly, but I think it's less likely than him not, if that makes sense. So we need someone to come in who's going to be here for the long term, and if they can work with Unai Emery, that's obviously a must, but not the only focus of who's Unai worked with in the past. Okay, let's pick him out. It can't be that for me. It needs to be someone who, again, can plan for whenever that day is. Hopefully, it's far in the future, and we win trophies under Emery, and it's happy days. But that's wishful thinking.
Yeah, we spoke about some of that on the Q&A this morning that is out tomorrow. So we'll maybe talk about that in future. So I think you're right. It should be
This feels like a chance for Villa to not reset, but
tweak things a bit
themselves. Yeah, instead of giving Emery needs power. He does, because we've seen what giving him power does for a club, and so far this season not going well. But what we've seen previously, fantastic. But there needs to be some sort of thinking now of we can't put all of our eggs in that basket. I think that was a risk that we took previously, and it has, you would say, paid off, because we've enjoyed, an incredible rate of success, and we've only gone one way under Emery so far. But for me, it would be a huge risk now to replace Monchi with Monchi Volume 2. And it'd be Emery's pal or whatever it might. And I'm not saying Monchi's credentials speak before themselves. I'm not saying that he was employed just because he knows Emery, but I'm saying that can't just be one of the ticks that are in the box. I almost don't care that he's worked with. Battery's exhausted. I'm exhausted as well.
Me too.
It's not
still here. Hold on.
It's not. That shouldn't be any sort of. Yeah, it helps, but it can't just be credence to just employ you because you're going to work with Emery and it'll be fine. Because then as soon as Emery goes, whenever that is again, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 12 months, what happens to you? Because we all thought this. Well, Monchi would go when Emery goes. Again, wherever that is in the time frame, he wouldn't be staying to oversee the next plan. That was never going to happen.
This group will always go together.
It was always going to be a. I'm only talking about Monchi and Emery here. Don't know for Damian, but for Monchi and Emery, when Emery goes, new sporting director too. That's a massive change whenever that happens, to recruit two probably most important people in your club. So now Villa have got to do one of those things. But under Emery, are they that important? Yeah, they're obviously important, but do they have the power that most of the sporting directors have? I don't think so, and I think that's partially the reason why we've seen Monchi go.
Let's talk about Damian. I want you to kind of explain a little bit about his role and what he does and what the relationship is like. There's a few suggestions that Monchi going means Emery might go at some point, but also what about Damian if they're all so close together? Is he the next one? Is he the next fall guy, or however you want to phrase it? Firstly, I don't think Emery does go anytime soon. This is not Emery's pissed off and he'll resign at Christmas. I don't see that. Not many managers resign these days anyway. Get a massive payoff, and I don't think we sack him. So I think Emery's here at least till the end of the season. Maybe we have a terrible season. Maybe there's a decision to be made in the summer anyway. Park that. The only way I see Damian leaving is because Emery's gone. Right, Damian's doesn't get the boot or resigns because he's pissed off as well for no reason. Right, they are way more together than Monchi. Right,
Damian serves for me a wider purpose anyway. It's
Can you explain a bit about that then?
So he's director of football operations, Monchi president. Again, or not now, but they've always worked as a three. Damian playing key roles in transfer dealings, working alongside Monchi, and again being in dialogue with Emery every single day, and has been absolutely the unsung hero, you would say, of Villa's rise under Emery. Right now, everything's being tested, right? But he's always kind of a voice of reason as well. I mean, you see that on social media sometimes, but then obviously, you're talking in the dressing room, wherever else at Bodymore, it's absolutely not someone that you'd want to let go, or that I'd like to think would be following Monchi or anything like that. So, no, Damian plays a key role, and again, I think this is just looking at Monchi specifically. I can't see how this would be anything other than him being okay to move on. Again, whether it's been a forceful thing or not, I don't think he's kicking and screaming, leaving. I really don't. I think I think you would look at it as a mutual of, again, restrictions in different ways in his specific role, but also, again, in the next few windows, are we going to have massive success stories? Can Monchi have big success stories in the window? Because for me, that would look like us signing players like an Andres Garcia, that low cost, knows the kind of profile of player very well, and they work under Emery. We haven't seen that. Full stop. Garcia's obviously, he's had a few good performances, but there's nothing more than that. That's what you'd want to see more of, and that would be a success story, I think, for Monchi. Because again, you look at what we've done, and we go over it earlier. Powell for a little bit. Rogers hopefully gets back into shape. Tielemans, it's all because Unai's there. This isn't Monchi necessarily working his magic. Yeah, don't get me wrong, he needs to do the deals, and he's sold quite a few players well for good money. But how you really rate Monchi, when you say Monchi, what do you think of? You think of Dani Alves, you think of other players that he signed and really helped to drive a football club forward, and he has been the powerful act in that. For Villa, does anybody think of Monchi's the reason why we finished in the quarterfinals of the Champions League? That's why we finished fourth. So that's why we nearly got back in the Champions League. Again, you'd point at it and be like, well, okay, so he was obviously played a part in Rashford coming to Villa. He played a part in Asensio coming to Villa. But without Emery, I don't think any of those things probably happen anyway. So it's hard for him to get that credit in the first place. And then even harder for him to get what would be kind of full Monchi credit of Kosta Nedeljkovic. Fantastic. That's a Monchi signing, and he's doing so well. Well, no, Emery was happy to get rid of him pretty much 6 months after joining. Simon Ozcan didn't even get a look in at all. So, yeah, that's a difficult role. But also the next person who comes in, who Sirius appoints, again, for me, this has to be future of Aston Villa sporting director rather than.
So you think the appointment is rather than, let's say Emery's here for 2 years, right? So you appoint somebody next week who Emery's worked with before, and they're both here for the next 2 years, and Emery either resigns or is sacked and goes to Brighton, and he takes that guy with him. You would rather we employ somebody who, if Emery's sacked in 2 years, this sporting director is here to see through the next manager as well.
Yeah, I think it has to be the case, because then we're just stuck in the situation of what we were in before. As soon as the main man leaves, Emery, what are we left with?
And how does that work though? Because if this guy is giving players and Emery's going, I don't want him. How does that work?
Well, that's something that will obviously have to they'll have to iron that out between themselves. But I'm just saying, as a general rule, what's the big issue? What's the future of Aston Villa? What's the big issue with Emery? Right, it's pretty simple. When he goes, it would appear that the whole football department is going to be restructured. You need to bring in something new, especially in the most powerful positions of the manager and sporting director.
Yeah.
At the moment, we have one of them in manager. We obviously have Emery. But if he also went with Monchi, I don't mean now, but let's say in 2 summers' time, Monchi doesn't go now, but he goes then. When Emery goes in 2 years, or just as a hypothetical, you have to replace 2 really important roles there, 2 massive decisions to make. And also, you would add that what do you do first? Does Suarez appoint a sporting director? And then he says who should be the manager? Because that's the sporting director at a football club usually should have that say in doing so. Or do you appoint the manager and then you do the sporting director, which again would make, we're kind of doing it the wrong way in most cases. But again, Emery has full power here and we've kind of sold ourselves to that and it's worked up until now. What will happen going forward, we'll see. Yeah.
We will obviously, as and when Villa hire a new sporting director or whatever that role looks like, we'll obviously discuss that and look into who that person is and do podcasts about it. This came, as far as I'm aware, John, pretty out of the blue in terms of the announcement. Someone asked earlier, where's this been reported? Basically everywhere besides the official Villa website, which that will come in time. When the next person comes through, we'll look into those and do a podcast if we feel it's necessary. If we know much about that person, maybe we can speak to somebody who, say they're the Bayern Munich sporting director from 10 years ago. Maybe we get someone on who's a fan of that club and they can tell us more. That's what we kind of do on the podcast when we get signings in and that kind of thing. And this kind of appointment applies the same. If there's knowledge out there, we'll go and look for it and we'll give our opinions as well. Just a comment from Mackay earlier on. He said, do you feel played by Guillaume Balagay's Emery propaganda that the noise is only outside? Quite clearly there are issues inside the club. It's not only media noise. Balagay used you guys. He didn't. Obviously he's got a book to sell and he wants to promote it and that's absolutely fine. That interview does not happen if Guillaume Balagay is not writing a book about Unai Emery. There's massive sections in there about the triangle of power and Monchi and stuff. So that'll be an interesting read with the context of tonight. Do I feel played? No, absolutely not. The point was, it wasn't that there isn't any negativity or any issues within the club. There are clearly issues given the state that we've started the season in. There's clearly issues given the rules that we've gone through. There are clearly issues with the players talking about PSR. You don't know the half of it. Ramsey being a popular member of the dressing room. Blah blah blah. There are issues. That's not what we said. It's that the external, we're never going to score a goal again, we might get relegated, we're terrible, we're awful. That does not permeate into the squad. That does not then feed into Ollie Watkins going, well, I'm never going to score again because the fans don't rate me. That doesn't happen. That was the kind of divide we were talking about as in versus out. Of course, there's issues within. Issues at lots of clubs. And some of them come to a head and things change, and some of them get resolved internally and you never hear about them. There is now work to be done to fix those problems. And there are so many problems. I don't know how you do fix some of those. If you employ a new sporting director next week, John, that's not going to change the way we play against Burnley. That's a completely different issue.
Yeah. No, you're right. No, I think you said that's correct. Just kind of two of the points that I'd like to make. One of them is quite a big one, and then the second one, I don't know. So, firstly, is it Alemany? I
think it's Alemania. Yeah.
Alemany, is it?
Is it?
Alemany is England in
Germany. In French.
It's
Germany in French.
Alemania.
Is it?
No, it's Angleterre.
Yeah, that's French. England in French. Isn't Germany in French Alemania?
I don't know. Anyway, Alemany, obviously that was Villa's first choice. Monchi
wasn't the rumour that he looked at how bad our books were and then pissed off back to Spain?
Oh, I thought it was more he touched down in Birmingham, which would have been.
No, that's what I mean. Came and had a meeting and I was like, no, this is bad. See you later.
Don't know, but anyway, whatever. Yes, that's kind of the first point of it. Emery wasn't first choice right away. Jesus. Monchi wasn't first choice right away. But again, still done a job that I think, again, how do I put it? I don't want to I'm not going to repeat what I said earlier. More of, again, difficult job. didn't help by the fact that some of the signings we've made for big money haven't been brilliant, but equally the buck doesn't just stop with Monchi here. And then the other point of this is now the start of how do I put it? This could be the start of a new chapter. This doesn't mean that it's going to be a different manager. It doesn't mean that it's going to be different, this, that, and the other. I'm just saying this could be the start of something new in the V Sports era, right? Villa will obviously could play this off as it's going to be a smooth transition from Monchi to this guy. But again, as I said, that guy or woman, whoever comes in, they need to, for me, be someone who can restructure Aston Villa moving forward. And I'm not saying that has to look like huge change. In fact, I don't think you want huge change necessarily, not yet anyway. But with the interest of Aston Villa moving forward, right now, I'm working with Unai Emery, one of the top managers in European football, and we want him to be here for life as long as we're succeeding and doing well. Same for Damian. And that's fantastic. But again, living in a bit of fantasy there, this might not be more than 3 years or so under Emery. It could be far less, who knows? But they have to have the responsibility for me to oversee that change when it happens later down the line. Because that is that is my main concern about the Emery project. What happens after the Emery project, genuinely, because at that, before Monchi left today, or is leaving, the news, no idea. And we still don't know, but it at least gives us a chance to maybe rethink about what's going to happen when that happens. Not saying that sporting director would come in and then think, right, okay, I want my new man in here. No, because we're not going to get better than Emery, really. So the point I'm trying to make, this could be the start of, I don't know, if in 5 years' time you look back at what has just happened for 5 years at Aston Villa, well, you'd like to think that this would be the start of something, not necessarily a rejuvenation. Kind of, I don't know what phase you're in, to be fair. Probably 5, you got Bruce, Gerrard, whatever.
No, I mean, for Emery, like we've had the first period of, we're better now than when Emery joined. We've got to the Champions League and we've dipped back down again. So now we want to change things to get back up there. Yeah.
That's essentially what I'm saying. Like this, I'm hoping could be a rejuvenation of the Emery plan, the Emery project, and
fresh thinking, new voice. Change of ideas, maybe.
We just need players to pass the ball well on the pitch and make chances and score goals. That's the kind of most basic level. But the second level is, a kind of a restart in that way. Again, doesn't have to be big change. It might just be, someone takes over from Monchi and there's, again, varying success. But if they have an eye on what the future is as well, that's the key thing for me. So we'll see and wait for what the club have planned. But again, for me, that's the main thing here. I think in the Unai Emery era, you're never going to have a sporting director that's more powerful than Unai, because I think the day that happens, that's the day that it starts to unravel, to be honest, because then you just get complications there. But then again, when that day comes, hopefully, far and away, because we want success under Unai, there has to be a plan in place for what happens after that, because this is not Nasser Sirius hasn't taken over Aston Villa to have a stab at it with a manager and then sell the club. This needs to be a prolonged success. We're massively tested by rules, and that's going to continue to to hold us back. And we're going to be hamstrung by them for some time yet until we can grow revenues. The only way to grow revenues is to be successful on the pitch. So we need to win now. We need to improve now. But that doesn't have to be at the expense of what the future is as well. We can't throw everything at this and it's failed and then think, oh, Jesus. And then everyone goes with it and you've got to restart afresh from what base? From what? I have no idea. But it has to be a smooth transition for when that day comes. And again, we're only talking about that now because that's essentially a sporting director's role, to keep the cycle moving. I don't want to be thinking about that yet. I want success with Unai now. And I'm hoping that can be delivered. And Monchi leaving, to be perfectly honest, doesn't impact my thought on that massively. I don't think now Monchi's gone, we can't win the Europa League. It's almost irrelevant. Not totally irrelevant, of course. It's still an important role in the club, but you know what I'm trying to say.
There's a couple of comments from K22M, who says he did a horrendous job moving on Deadwood. He had to let most of them go for free, and I want to use that. I don't agree, by the way. I want to use that as a question for the next person. Having to let them go on a free, by the way, is the point. No one wanted them. They were on massive wages. So the question is, John,
Diego Carlos for money.
The person who comes in next, this sporting director, how much say they've got over Emery, forget that, put that to one side. Is this person's job easier than what Monchi had to deal with? Is the club in a better state in terms of its squad than it was back then?
Yeah. Yeah, unequivocally. Yeah.
So he's done a good job of getting rid of players then?
Yeah, I think when we say deadwood, we're talking Moreno, Dendoncker,
Coutinho,
Bertrand Traore, Coutinho. Again, I think you've got to be one of the best sporting directors in the world to get funds, like real funds for them. You're not going to sell
no one
Dendoncker
wants them.
for
What are you
£5
going to
million. Yeah, it's not going to happen when you have 1 year left on your deal and we say, give us £2 million. They'll say, no, we want him for free because £2 million is nothing in terms of a transfer fee. It's not going to revolutionise anything. But what we did do is we did sell Diego Carlos for money. We have let go of those big wages that
sold around for 70 odd million, and he ain't worth half of that now.
Well, yeah, that's another point, yeah. But just in terms of deadwood players that you need to move on, that no one really should be buying, we have still made money from some of those players. But then also, again, the wages, that's the key thing, to get them off the books. So we made a lot of mistakes under Steven Gerrard in our recruitment, and some of the players we just mentioned there were signed under Gerrard. That's a big cleanup operation. Villa don't have a cleanup operation right next summer. Of course, we can look at, well, maybe is it time for X amount
it's a
of
different
players
job to do now.
Yeah, but none of the players in our squad right now, unless I've forgotten someone, should be leaving Villa for free, right? Unless I've forgotten someone. I mean, you could look at someone like, I don't know, a Ross Barkley, and you say, well, you're not going to get money for him. Okay, well, we didn't pay £15 million for him, like Dendoncker or however much that was 12 or so. So that it doesn't really matter.
It's a different job now. That there was a lot of cleaning up the mess of the previous regime. This is a refreshment of an aging squad. That's the next task.
And refreshing this Villa team looks like maybe, and I say maybe because we don't know, but maybe selling your striker for £25-30 million and Ollie Watkins. That's a completely different thing to having to terminate Bertrand Traore's contract because he doesn't, because he can only stay fit to play for Burkina Faso. It's a completely different situation. So where the Villa squad is now, we need a refreshing and the players need to improve. We need to be able to, again, score goals in football matches. But as assets, we have a lot of different assets. Yeah, they're on essentially the decline because of how poorly we've started the season. But if we manage to pick it back up and players are, getting back to the levels that they showed last season, then of course we will be in a much better position in terms of our ability to negotiate in the market, right? And just quickly, so new contract should say too. Again, those things do need ironing out. It's not something where you stand up and you clap Monchi and it's how has he managed to pull off a Boubacar Kamara contract? But still, that was a big tick in the summer. You just think that what would Villa look like without Emery but Monchi in position still? I'd love to kind of see how that dynamic would have worked. So who would Monchi have appointed? What players would we have signed? Would he have the power to say, no, we need to keep hold of Nedeljkovic. That's your right back for the next 3 years. Do you know what I mean? That is usually what Monchi does. It's completely different, or has been completely different, really, at Villa. So again, I don't think you can judge him. You can judge him, of course, you can judge him, but you can't judge him as the Monchi that he has been at other clubs. We've appointed Monchi, but not to quite do the job he's done at other teams. So then you look at that and say, again, have we given Emery too much power in that way, that we're bringing someone in? Well, actually, it's not really you haven't really been allowed to do what you do best. So yeah, there's a lot of kind of moving parts to the judgment of this, but again, it's a no kind of getting away from it. It's still a big moment. Yeah,
I'm going to wrap up with one final point. It's not about Monchi, it's about Emery, as a plug for the Q&A, as much as anything. There's 780 people watching at 20 to midnight on Monday. Thank you very much for tuning in. I know there's plenty of Villa podcasts out there, and I'm sure they'll all be doing their own version of this conversation. So thanks for choosing ours. If you want to subscribe to the channel and leave comments and likes and all that kind of stuff, it genuinely does help us grow. And the bigger we grow, the more we can do, and yada, yada, yada. The more resource we have to play with. Final comment from Stephen. He says, you all think Emery can do no wrong. Open your eyes, look at the table, look at the performances, look at what's happening within the club. Something is so wrong at Villa. Watch the Q&A tomorrow. We have plenty to say about Unai Emery. He absolutely does do wrong. He absolutely can be questioned. Does that mean we should sack him? No. Does that mean I think he'll resign because he's annoyed that Monchi's left? Definitely not. Can you question him, John? Will you question him in a presser? Yeah. Like, that does happen. You said in the Q&A, he doesn't always give you an answer that you want. That's not your fault, right? So this idea that Unai Emery's a god and everything he does is perfect and turns to gold, no, it has happened. He's been very, very good for this club and changed the fortunes immensely. As I said, we wouldn't even have sniffed the Champions League without Unai Emery. So he's done a lot of good for this club. But over the last 6 months, he's done, I don't say he's done bad for us, but he's done a lot of questionable things. Tactics, substitutions, starting 11s in big games, big moments go missing, yada, yada, yada. We absolutely can and do question Unai Emery. We get this all the time of, these guys, because John goes to a presser, he's too scared to talk about Emery. He's not going to badmouth him because he might get banned by the club and all. It's nonsense. We get it all the time. And I can promise you, there's not a single person messaging my phone or sending me an email saying, "Oh, Dan, you said something on the podcast that you shouldn't have," or maybe go down this line of avenue of questioning next time. Nobody tells me what I can and can't say.
I have. and that doesn't matter.
But we can say what we want and we will talk about him. It's been a terrible start. We did an hour-long Q&A this morning, a lot of it, and we thought, can we still publish that with tonight's news? And we will, because it was a different conversation, but do bear in mind, if we're talking about the direction of the club and the future, we're obviously not talking about Monchi leaving because it hadn't happened this morning when we filmed it. But a lot of that talk was on the pitch. It was the players not performing. It was the manager not getting his substitutions right, not picking the correct team. We've had a big, full discussion about the start, and it's terrible. But there's still seeds of faith for it can change. There's belief it can change, because what's the point of supporting a football club if you just resign to, well, we're going to get relegated then. See you in May, everybody. 33 games to go. It's a long time still. And, go and watch the Q&A tomorrow is all I say when it comes out. If you think that we can't badmouth the manager, there'll be plenty of that. We lose at the weekend. You'll hear plenty of badmouth.
There's absolutely nothing in it for us to go either way. So
yeah.
We just give our opinions on this podcast.
Yeah. Okay. That's 52 minutes. There's an hour-long episode coming out tomorrow. It was going to be first thing in the morning, but I'll push it back to lunchtime because people will wake up in the morning and listen to this, I'm sure, that are already not listening to it live. Thanks to the 800-odd people that joined. We really do appreciate it. As I said, there's plenty of Villa podcasts out there. So if you want to subscribe, leave a like and all that usual YouTube-y stuff, then please do. It does help us. This podcast is also sponsored by NordVPN. There'll be a link to that down below as well if you want to get the best discount code available. And just a quick one for everyone that is still here. The preview show that we do on a Friday, generally, we're tweaking it a little bit. It's not going to be a preview as such anymore. It's going to be more like a fan opinion, fan zone kind of thing, where the mailbag link that is in the description of every single podcast that we do, we want you to give your thoughts on the game, the upcoming game. So Fulham at the weekend, what's your score prediction? How do you think it's going to go? What tactical battle are you interested in? And we're going to read out loads of comments. We're going to talk about your opinions. And rather than it be, well, John, what's the predicted 11? Or what did Emery say in the presser? We want to talk about what fans are feeling and how we feel about the games and do it a little bit earlier as well. So we've done a lot of Friday night live streams. That may now be a Friday morning or a Thursday night. We want to kind of bring that forward a little bit. So if you do enjoy the stuff that we do, Q&As every Monday, sometimes Tuesday, post-match shows after every single game, previews a little bit earlier than we used to, and Claret and Brew as well with Kendrick once a week, although not this week because our schedules don't align, but that'll be back next week as well. We're doing lots and lots of other bits and pieces. So if you want to kind of stick with us and support us, we do appreciate it. So any closing thoughts from you, John?
No, not really. Again, like
been a busy day, hasn't it?
Got the Q&A coming out tomorrow, which we're going to cover the other topics that we haven't spoke about in this episode, but I think we've covered most of everything so far.
That was definitely more on the pitch stuff, wasn't it? The Q&A, whereas this is all the off the stuff.
It was only that, really. Yeah. And again, as information comes out, as we find out new things, we'll be back to discuss and disseminate what that means for Aston Villa. Yeah. But again, it's just because it's been such a bad start. This development. This needs to work in Villa's favour again. We need positivity. We need, you know what I'm trying to say? We need, not one decision is going to make or break what Aston Villa do next, right? But it can inform what happens in the future and can go some way to kind of keeping us on track, because everything at the moment points to things being derailed. So this change, whether people like it or love it or hate it, don't mind it, it needs to be something that works in our favour moving forward. So it's genuinely a really big development.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, we'll end this podcast with a quick NordVPN advert. John, you can leave the call, and we'll see you again for the Q&A tomorrow lunchtime. Bye, everyone.
Being a working from home bore can take its toll, so occasionally I swap my tracksuit bottoms for actual trousers and head into the office on the bus. Even from the top deck of the number 9, the graft never stops, sparking up my laptop to plough through a list of urgent business critical tasks. After all, the brilliant dad jokes I deliver on Claret and Blue don't write themselves. Of course, travelling by public transport and using public Wi-Fi on my phone hotspot makes me, my laptop and my hilarious gags susceptible to attack. Not anymore, thanks to NordVPN. Now I can craft my side-splittingly funny funnies without fear of lurking comedians hacking into my computer to steal my material and passing it off as their own on Live at the Apollo. To get the best discount of your NordVPN plan, go to nordvpn.com/Claret and Blue. Our link will also give you 4 extra months for free on the 2-year plan. There's no risk with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. The link you need is in the podcast description below. NordVPN is like me having my own little cyber bus bouncer.
Oi, Baldy, shift.
Although it still doesn't stop the big kids kicking me out of my own seat.